I hope you're having a fantastic day. So, today we will be talking about Throne of Glass, one of those books that I've absolutely abhorred reading, and it was a terrible experience. Now, I know, and I'm very, very aware that I am not necessarily the intended audience for this book, but there is something that I want to talk about that even all the people the intended audience have had a problem with, and this is a shared universal problem about this book, Throne of Glass by Sir J. Maas. You open this chapter 1, you can see this book and the problem that people have with it in the first chapter. So what is the problem? And the problem here is false promises, specifically false promises about the characters. And number 2, false promise about where the plot will go. Oftentimes when you're writing a chapter 1, you want to make sure that you have your promise, you have you essentially give the audience a promise, right? So for example, if you look at The Eye of the World, the first prologue is the dragon reborn Louis Therin, who has gone insane. And he dies by the end of the prologue, and there's a lot of epic stuff going on. And there is this promise that this Randall Thor boy is the next dragon reborn when you meet him. And number 2, he's going to have to struggle with this power dynamic, because if he taps into more power, he's going to risk getting crazier, but he needs more power to save the world. And so that is the character dilemma and the character promise. And you see throughout The Eye of the World and throughout The Wheel of Time that this promise is not only kept, but it is advanced. It goes in new places and in new directions. This is what you call good writing, okay? Because there is a follow through, there is a follow up. You have been promised, and the promise was not a lie. Enter Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass makes 2 false promises in chapter 1. The first promise is about the character Selena Sardathian, and she is supposed to be a badass assassin. She is supposed to be a deadly assassin at that, and essentially we are told that this is the best assassin in the world. She is essentially not the best assassin in the world. She is one of the worst assassins in the world. Okay, but we are told that she is the best assassin in the world. Okay, after a year of slavery in the salt mines of Indovir, Selena was accustomed to being escorted everywhere in shackles. An extra half dozen guards always walked Selena to and from the mines. It continues. She could disarm 2 of these guards in a heartbeat. Would the captain fare better than her late overseers? Eventually she is brought to the crown prince. He says here, and you are Selena Sardathian, Adolan's greatest assassin, perhaps the greatest assassin in all of Irelia. The captain explains there is no hope of escaping from Indovir. Your father made sure that each of Endovir's sentries could shoot a squirrel from 200 paces away. To attempt to flee is suicide, but you're alive, and so on and so forth, right? But this is all just talk and talk and talk. The character never really does that. Another thing we are promised is a competition, a bloody competition. And this is not only promised within the first within the first 3 chapters, but it is promised within actually also the synopsis for the book. In everywhere you can find this. In the dark, filthy salt mines of blah blah blah, young Captain Westfall offers her a deal, her freedom in return for one huge sacrifice. Selena must represent the prince in a to the death tournament, fighting the most gifted thieves and assassins in the land. Live or die, Selena will be free. Win or lose, she is about to discover her true destiny. But will her assassin's heart be melted? This is a promise of romance, which is not bad because the story is not badly marketed, so you can see how even from the get-go, there is a lot of implications of how the man is very handsome, the crown prince is very handsome. But there is this is just a single tiny sentence compared to all of this. And so you have a far greater promise of blood than you have a promise of romance. Okay, and so many people expressed frustration with this. And you have here, are you kidding me? What the hell is this? How do you screw up your story quite so badly after starting from an incredible premise involving the most notorious assassin in the land, now a slave, being offered the chance to win back her freedom, sort of, in a to-the-death tournament, fighting the most gifted thieves and assassins in the land? Apart from thieves and assassins, a number of the competitors are actually ex-guards and random other criminals, for the most part disposable enough not to warrant names. And I would only consider a small handful of them to be gifted at anything. I mean, you really have to be talented to go from all of that exciting sounding awesomeness to, well, to the Throne of Glass, you know? I knew this actually, that it was inspired by Disney's Cinderella. Imagine, Cinderella but with blood. Yeah, but this book was kind of okay, it was kind of fine in terms of marketing, because if you notice here, but will her assassin's heart be melted? So there is a promise of romance, but there is far more promise of blood than there is promise of romance. So the book should have really put more effort into marketing itself properly. Okay, that Cinderella stuff should have been mentioned here, not anywhere else. And so those are two promises that are, essentially the promise of blood that is made in the beginning, and also the promise of an assassin, the best assassin in the world. That is who we are following. Those two promises are not kept throughout the book. And so the conclusion from all this is that if you're going to make a book, please make sure that book, okay, if you make a promise in the beginning, deliver that promise. Number two, if you're going to have a book about something, don't market it as something else. People are going to be bothered. People are going to be pissed off, because most people don't read the Q&As. Most people don't read, essentially the entire history of what this book was inspired from. They just read the synopsis in, let's say, maybe in Goodreads or in the back of the book if it's a bookstore, etc., etc. And that they read that blurb and they just move on. They either buy the book or they don't buy the book. Come on, you can't confuse these things. If you promise stuff early on, please deliver that stuff. Okay? And so, how to not write a chapter 1, even though the chapter 1 in this book is good, it is just not followed by a proper execution of it. A proper follow-up to that chapter 1. Anyhow, I hope that you enjoyed this. Have a nice day.